Hello everyone and welcome to the first game we'll be covering from round 2 of this year's FIDE Chess Olympiad. It is the United States versus Singapore, and we have Levon Aronian versus Zhenyong, Jayden, Wong. And again, I'm showing a Levon game, but it seems Levon just... he can't stop, won't stop, and he keeps going into positions that no one would play. Okay, in this one, he didn't go into a position that no one would play because they actually play a game that was played a couple of months ago between Yuan Yi and Aronian, and obviously they both went into that willingly, but only Levon knows that. Jayden here had to calculate his way out of a huge mess. So let's check it out. Levon with white opens with pawn to e4. We have pawn to c5, knight f3, we have pawn to e6, so no, sorry about that, so no knight of this game. We have pawn to d4, captures, and knight to c6. We have the Taimanov variation, knight to c3 and queen c7, the Bastrikov line. We have bishop to e3, pawn to a6 and queen to d2. So all very standard moves. We have knight to f6, castles, and bishop to e7. And usually f3 is played here and pawn to f4, okay, if you're feeling very adventurous. But something like f3, and only then if your opponent castles kingside, you will start pushing g4, h4, and so on. But here Levon starts pushing right away. He plays pawn to g4, and there aren't a lot of games with this line, but there is a very well-known one. Knight captures on g4. Going after the bishop, and bishop to f4, attacking the queen here. And it seems like, okay, isn't this just weird? Can't we just play pawn to e5 here? Not really, because if you play pawn to e5, then knight d5, and your position just falls apart. There's no good way to get out of this mess. To give you a simple example, if queen to d8, then the knight comes to f5, something, like we would see in a Morphy versus Anderson match. And now after you captures here, just rook to g1, and this is just crushing. Well, let's say you defend the knight, pawn to h5, pawn to h3 threatens to win material back, and if knight to f6, now just knight captures on e7, and that's it. Knight captures, knight to d6 with check, king to f8, e5. What do you do with the knight? Let's say you bring the knight back, and now queen captures on f4, threatening checkmate. And you can prolong this, but it's not going to be a pleasant experience for black. It's a position that keeps on giving for white, and of course Levon knows this. So after bishop to f4, we have knight g back to e5. This is the absolute best way to play. Knight captures on c6. We have b captures. This is the first moment where Jayden really spent some time. He's already down to 1 hour and 4 minutes, whereas Levon has more time than he started with, 1 hour and 32 minutes. So Levon knows what he's doing. We have rook to g1 and pawn to g5. Again, spending some 8 minutes on this move, but it is the best way to play. Idea is that if bishop captures on g5, you're no longer pinning the knight, and now knight to f3 is, well, either winning or close to winning for black, because after the queen moves, you're going to capture on g1, and after bishop captures on e7, let's say king captures, queen g5 check, nicely connecting with the knight, but you don't have to rush it. You can actually go queen to h6 check, and you really don't want to play king to g8 because the bishop then moves and a rook could capture the knight. So you will play something like king to e8, and now queen g7 goes after the rook, and after rook to f8, now you will capture the knight here. But okay, rook to b8, and the game continues with black being slightly better. Black is up the exchange, and okay, it's not the exchange, it's yes, it's the exchange, rook for knight, and okay, black's king is a bit more loose, but nothing to worry about. If you play the Sicilian, you don't mind having a loose king. So after g5, rook captures on g5. It's the exact same move that Yuan Yi played against Arjun. Bishop captures on g5. Bishop captures, now knight to f3, connecting nicely with the queen and the bishop. Queen to e3, and now knight captures on g5. We have queen captures on g5, and now pawn to d6. You can see that more time was spent here. Now Jayden is down to 34 minutes, Levon 1 hour and 34 minutes. So Levon is only gaining time, which means that he is still playing a line that he knows very well. And the reason why you play d6 here instead of the standard d5 is that, for example, captures, and now bishop to g2, and you are lost. Why are you lost? You might be thinking, well, okay, let's play a move like bishop to b7. Knight captures on d5. E captures, rook to e1 with check. And now look at this. This is just beautiful here. The bishop can come to h3. And if you go to f8, then queen to h6 check, king to g8. And now bishop captures on d5 with rook to g1 checkmate to happen next. Or, you know, something like rook to g1. You're going to have to block with the queen and then captures with checkmate. So there is no defense against this. So after queen to g5, pawn to d6 is the only way to play this for black, and now we reach a position where we deviate from the line that was played, I think, in March between Yuan Yi and Arjun Ergaisi in Shenzhen, where Yuan Yi played queen back to g3, followed it by pawn to f4. But here we have pawn to f4 right away by Levon, improving on that game, and it is now as of move 17 that we have a completely new game. Okay, we have queen to e7, offering a queen trade. Interestingly, Jayden is playing all of the top engine moves so far. I mean, he's really trading blows here with Levon without knowing the line. He spent over an hour on the clock, and Levon still just playing moves. And here comes queen to g1. You could also play queen to g7. Levon probably played queen to g1 to be a little bit tricky, and it is the first move where Levon actually spent some time. So up until this point, he was playing from memory. Or maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe he just, you know, blitzed this out because he felt creative. It is Levon, so it's not impossible. So queen to g1, and now king to f8, stopping any queen to g7 action in the future, and now pawn to e5. And this is where things get really, really interesting. Here, you have to play pawn to d5 right away, but here Jayden played rook to g8. It seems like, okay, if you can play it, it comes with tempo, so you definitely should play it, but it's not possible. The reason it's not possible, and you really have to be a Levon type player to figure out this one, feel free to pause the video and try to find the only winning move for Levon while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, as you are truly a spectacular player of the most awesome lines. Even Levon did not find this one. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is queen to b6. Levon did find the move, only not the correct continuation. And the reason why it's so deadly is what do you do with the d6 pawn? In the game, rook to g6 was played, but how do you, I mean, can you play d captures on e5, or can you play pawn to d5, maybe advance the pawn? Well, this was played in the game, but just to show you what happens if you capture on e5, why this is so nasty. Rook to d8 with check, and after king to g7, queen to g1 with check, and now you lose the rook. You either go to h8 and you get checkmated, or go to h6 and then rook captures on g8, and that's it. Now you are just up a full knight and completely winning. It's a matter of a few moves before a black king gets checkmated. So after queen to b6, we have pawn to d5, the only way to continue, even though this also isn't enough. Now comes knight to e4, and this is the move that Levon saw when he played queen to b6, no doubt the one that you saw when you decided to play queen to b6. And the threat is as follows. If you capture the knight, it's the exact same idea. Rook to d8 with check, followed by queen to g1. So, of course, rook to g6 was played, preparing to give up the rook after knight to f6 is played, and that's why probably Levon played knight to d6. And he also played it because Jayden is now down to 8 minutes on the clock, and he didn't want to spend too much time. He wanted Jayden to burn more time, but as you can see, he spent 3 minutes on the move. It's not the correct way to go. This is now better for black. The correct way for Levon to play this is to go knight to f6, and now after rook captures, as this is the only move, e captures and queen captures, queen c5 check, and after king to g7, king to b1, and now your position is just, well, winning. It's very, very hard to find a move here for black. For example, pawn to e5, bishop to d3, and now you cannot play e4. If you play pawn to e4, rook to g1 check, and it doesn't matter where you go. King to h6, pawn to f5 even, freeing up the e3 square for the queen, and after bishop captures, just queen to e3 check, and that's it. King to h5, bishop to e2 with check, king to h4, and queen to g3 will be checkmate. So after bishop to d3, you can't really play pawn to e4. You're going to have to trade bishops, and now, for example, captures on f5, or you can play queen to g1 with check, even better, and after king to h6, now you'll play f captures on e5, queen captures, bishop captures, queen captures, and rook to f1, and here white will have a winning advantage. If rook to g8 going after the queen, you play queen e3 check, something like queen to g5, and now you go after the pawns. Black king is in a terrible position. You can capture on c6. If you defend this, you can capture on a6. You can push a4 and then capture. And basically, the a pawn is the trump card that will win you this game. And that's why knight to f6 had to be played. But Jayden did spend time here, and Levon probably decided that, okay, he calculated this, let's go this way, because it might not be as strong, but it could be as complicated. But now comes bishop to d7, also guarding the c6 pawn, and there's no good way for Levon to continue. He does play bishop to d3 with an attack on the rook, rook to g2, and now we have king to b1. A beautiful prophylactic move by Levon that gives the move over to black, and it's not easy to find the move here for black. You have to really be in this one to figure it out. Something like pawn to f5, but no one plays this unless you have the soul of silicon. So bishop to e8. This is a very nice move, as it gets the bishop to a better square and also prepares queen to a7, which will offer a queen trade, but also nicely connect with that g1 square, and then rook to g1 will also be an idea. So look at this. Pawn to f5. Levon just keeps going forward. Queen to a7, and now queen to b4. Also very nasty, but now look at Jayden's move. Purely cold-blooded, rook g1. He says you can have all the discoveries you want because there just aren't any. There's not a good discovery in sight. And that is true. So Levon just plays bishop back to e2. He offers a trade of rooks, which is definitely what you should do. If you try to be too smart with bishop to f1 to sort of stop the rook trade and keep the attack going, then queen to f2, and you are now in trouble. So after rook g1, bishop to e2 was played, rook captures on d1, bishop captures, and queen to g1. Seems like it stops all of Levon's threats, and to be real, it does, because, okay, you play queen to d2, and the attack is over, just something like he captures on f5, knight captures, bishop d7, the rook comes into the game. It is now black who takes over, but queen to d2 is not the way Levon plays chess. Levon just plays pawn to a3. He gives up the bishop, will play king a2, and then he wants to continue his attack being down a full rook. I mean, wow. Queen captures on d1 check. Okay, king to a2, we have e captures on f5. We have knight captures on f5, opening up a discovery. King to g8, and now queen to e7. Such a silent move, but a deadly one. There are so many threats here that it's hard to even count all of them. Just to give you an example, okay, you can't really move the rook, even if you could. You can't move it because the bishop would hang, all sorts of checkmating ideas. Like if you play queen to h5, which seems like a perfectly normal move, you just help out the defense by bringing the queen closer. Queen f6, and there's no defense against queen g7 checkmate. Or rather, there is, but you will have to part with your queen. Queen to g6 runs into knight to e7 fork, and if you try queen to g4, you run into knight to h6 fork. You lose the queen on both accounts. So after queen e7, pawn to h6 is the only move that keeps the position level and that keeps Jayden in the game. Knight captures on h6 check, king to h7, and queen to h4. Now threatening all sorts of nasty discoveries. And now Jayden played this game brilliantly. He found everything Arjun found in that game against Yuan Yi and more, because this game lasted longer. That one was drawn, I don't know in how many moves. And here he has a minute to find pawn to f5 or pawn to f6, doesn't really matter, because pawn to f6 frees up the h5 square for his queen. And now after Levon obviously will block this with knight to g4 check, king to g6. You have to see all of this, that it's possible to defend. Queen h6 check, king to f7, queen captures an f6 check, king to g8, knight to h6 check, king h7, and now knight to f5, threatening checkmate. Rook a7, stopping checkmate, queen to h6 with check, king to g8, and now queen to e6 check, and it will be a perpetual regardless of how you play it. There are many ways we could achieve it, like bishop f7, knight to h6 with check, king to f8, now queen to d6 with check, rook to e7, only move, otherwise you get checkmated, and now queen to f6, threatening queen to h8, check, so queen to g1, getting ready to block this, and now we have to settle for a perpetual here. There is nothing better. So that is what he had to see in order to save this game. f7 or f6, opening up his bishop. But he played king to g6, and now Levon is completely winning, and he's not dropping it. Queen to f6 with check, king to h5, now knight to f5, threatening to push the black king down the board. Queen to f3, and now queen to h6 with check. We have king to g4, and now, of course, only one move wins, but it is not difficult to see it. Knight to e3 with check, and he was in this position on move 38 that Zhenyong, Jayden, Wong resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. As you can see, the queen covers the h-file, the queen covers the diagonal, the knight covers the f5 square, and the pawn covers the g3 square. The queen occupies the f3 square, which means that the black king has nowhere to go. The queen will have to sacrifice itself for the knight, and then Levon would have a queen versus a bishop and rook. But it's not like a bishop and rook that's doing anything. It's a bishop and rook that can't really even enter the game. And we could show a couple of more moves, but how do you introduce those pieces into the game? Like bishop d7, you just give a few checks. Queen g3 check, king to h5, queen to f3 with check, doesn't matter. Queen f6 check, again, doesn't matter. Queen captures on f7, attacks the bishop, and that's pretty much it. You're gonna pick up the bishop and advance your past e-pawn to victory. So that's only one of the lines, but any line you play ends in catastrophe for Jayden. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Another game by Levon that's unlike anything you've ever seen. Every Levon game is like a movie. It has many characters. It has a very deep plot. It has so many ups and downs, and that's why we always enjoy seeing Levon play creative chess. And creative chess is the only chess that Levon ever plays. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, big congratulations to Jayden on holding his own for so long. I mean, because Levon knew everything up until that. We said that the first time Levon even spent any time on the clock was this queen to g1 move, and this is already move 18. So I mean, holding your own against an informed Levon, who knows everything by heart. I mean, it's very, very impressive. But yeah, well, he did it. He spent time, but then when it was 1 minute on the clock and you had to play pawn to f6, I mean, imagine your entire life everyone tells you don't play pawn to f6, don't play pawn to f6, and then you have 1 minute on the clock against Levon Aronian, former 2800 player, former world number 2, and your only salvation is to play pawn to f6. You're not finding that. So I hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Ren Songhua, Joseph Treat, GuernseyChessFestival.org.gg, Dr. Captain Collins, and Professor Hexagon for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.